Not on like phones.
Except the guy who's doing the mix today. I was not a fan of.
Why?
He just liked everything really quiet.
That's annoying.
Just because he's old. We had a full multi-track stems though for that. We had a brass section. We had strings. I told him to crank it. He did not, in fact, crank it. But it's okay.
I'm sure he didn't. Because nothing screams a battle march like quiet music.
Right, and just vocals.
Right.
With a faint idea of instruments behind it.
Like, were the drums were down low?
No, the drums were thankfully
Okay.
up-ish, but
You
just
could-
the snare. The rest of it wasn't.
Well, you mostly just need a snare for a march like that.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Can we do a quick
Check
check?
1 2. Checking 1 2. Talking like I do.
Yeah, I'm
You
checking.
want
I think this. I'm looking at the levels. Seems fine.
Everybody good?
Yep,
Feeling great. Feeling groovy.
You are no Jedi?
I am no Jedi.
that's a cool shirt.
It's a
It's a
great
cool
show.
shirt.
We got that. It was Disney.
Disney. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's by Ashley Eckstein. So
Oh, that's right.
It's what is the
Our universe.
Our
it's
universe
our
is
universe, not
the-
her
is
universe.
the
Unisex line or whatever.
yes.
All right, have fun with this.
No.
All right, so let's talk about why we're talking about Luke again,
Let's
Again?
talk
because you
about
can't
why
really
we're-
talk about the Last Jedi
without
for
talking
five
for
more
the five
for-
times.
I mean, we've talked. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Luke every single time.
Yes.
And we've talked about the criticisms of Luke. We talked about the theories of Luke. We've talked about the Force. We've talked about
Which is
the
Force is
director and the Jedi.
Mark Hamill and Luke. Yeah.
So why are we doing an episode specifically on Luke Skywalker? Let me explain. I want us to have one episode that we can always refer to, send people to if they ask questions, that all we're talking about is Luke Skywalker's character and the criticisms and everything about it, specifically from The Last Jedi, all in one episode.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yep.
It's fair.
So I've found 5 of the most common criticisms of Luke Skywalker. You got something in your ear there?
Well, I've been lightheaded all day.
Wake
like,
up.
to the point where I feel like I'm gonna like fall over. Like my body's like struggling to like catch up with myself. So
You have a
kinda
little.
my
You have a little too
equilibrium.
much to drink on the 4th or something.
Yeah. Woo! Lit.
For the record, you didn't have anything to drink.
No,
on
but
As
we
you
did
were
light things up.
Underage. We did blow stuff up.
Fireworks. That was sick.
Maybe something blew off near your ear.
You were kind of close to a few.
Well, specifically the one that like landed. A neighbor shot
Oh.
one, and the box fell over, and one landed to the point where I felt like the shockwave hit my leg. So
It flew pretty close.
it was really freaking close. And I'm just gonna see if I have any blockages or anything in my ear. But this morning I was like walking around church, and I was like, "Whoa!" But there's like 30,000 steps in that freaking place, and so that didn't help either. But we're okay. Fireworks are awesome.
All right. So 5 different criticisms about Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. We're going to treat them with respect. We're going to treat people that have them with respect. And we're going to... This is
Starting off
Star
really
Wars.
strong.
This is Star Wars, so it's hard to do sometimes. But then we're going to address each of these issues. First one is the green milk scene. That
People
one
have a
for-
complaint with that?
People really, you don't know the
No, I know the frustrations.
All right.
I know that that's a major issue. They feel like it's unnecessary and stupid, and even is like to a point I've heard people say like exploitive and like just weird.
disrespectful.
I can understand people having a criticism with it. But the fact that it's in the top 5 for Luke
Oh,
that
without
you
a doubt
found
it is.
is a little absurd, I feel like.
Okay.
Like,
So is this like no particular order?
No, this is kind of in my experience, like
Least to most.
we're going to least to
We're
the most.
building
Okay.
to the worst
We're building
criticism.
to it.
Okay.
But the idea is you got the milk, the sea cow
cow.
or whatever it is, in the scene where he's being grumpy and ignoring Rey.
Mm-hmm.
And she's following him around as he's going about his daily tasks, his chores. And it's when he milks the sea cow, and which is it. Okay. Can you understand why somebody might have a little bit of a frustration or like for a concern? Like it's unnecessary. It's kind of gross is the idea. It's disrespectful. This is supposed to be your hero. And now this is the hero of Star Wars. And now he's milking it and drinking the milks out of this. I mean,
I can understand the frustration if you're like in the vegetarian vegan world,
I guess.
or even like an advocate for PETA or anything like that. If you
Like an
have
animal,
the issue,
you think of it as more of like an
Just-
animal rights.
I
thing?
think in a way it can be seen as like this is weird.
that's
to me.
not at all what
Shock.
this is about.
I'm trying to rationalize this. Okay, let me work.
Okay.
I can't figure out another reason as to why it would be a problem. I think that the first time I saw it, I was like, "Whoa, it's jarring." There's
It is
doubt.
jarring.
But,
But I
but if
think-
you live in that jar, if you live
you live in that jar?
if you live in that jar,
What?
if you live in that feeling of
You're
like,
not helping our case at all.
It's not going well.
this is not the time for me to be talking about this. I'm trying to work through it. But if you live in that feeling of like, well, originally it shocked me. Originally it was like, oh, that's strange, and just continue to fester in that. I think it can be a criticism, but I don't see a legitimate one. I don't get how it can be. I don't know.
Okay, can you figure out why someone might find it disrespectful?
No,
to the character?
I don't.
Can you is the main thing.
Well, my rationale for it. He was probably milking the banthas on Tatooine. He's probably reverting back to his farm boy days on Tatooine. He just happens to be on Ahch-To at this point. Like, and it's just such a non-issue. Plus, he's actively trying to throw off Rey in this scene.
Well, I'm not asking you to justify the scene. I'm asking you to try to understand why someone would have a problem with the scene.
I think it's less about the scene then, or that specific shot in the scene, and it's more of that whole sequence and what it is doing for the character of him brushing off Rey, acting like this grumpy old man, actively trying to gross her out or make her uncomfortable or whatever. And I can see how, like we've said, if you have a vision of what Luke is supposed to be here, this doesn't match the grand war hero master Jedi thing that the galaxy's been put up. This is an old man who just went to a cow and started milking it and drank it for breakfast or whatever. And so I think it's less. I think the scene itself, sure, it's off-putting in its content, but I don't think that alone is why people have a problem with it. I think it's, like I said, it's a symptom of the way Luke was behaving throughout that whole sequence that throws people off, and they just target that moment.
It is everything they don't like about this Luke Skywalker in one visual. I think that's where I think you're on to the right thing.
Yeah.
But it's everything. I mean, think about this it's gross. It's I mean, really, I mean, how often have we seen something like this in Star Wars? I mean, it's like, I mean, you've got a teat, and he's basically, squirting milk out of a teat on Star Wars. And then he's, he does the whole thing where he drinks some of it out of the bottle and it's drooling down his beard. And it's one of my favorite gifts. I use it all the time. But
You just like pissing people off
I do,
on Twitter,
but
don't you?
you understand. I mean, I think that's why that moment really is the perfect visual for everything they
It
hate.
encapsulates it. Yeah.
It is the perfect visual for everything they
And
hate about this Luke.
I guess when you take it a step back and you say you haven't seen something like this in Star Wars, yeah, I can understand that. I guess to me it just didn't feel that weird because I don't know. I don't
It's
think
natural.
That, I don't
it's
think
normal.
it's that weird to think about. Like, I can't believe we're talking about this in such detail on the podcast. But here we are. I don't think it's that weird to like show milking something. Like it's a normal thing.
Yeah, like
at
where
least
do you think milk comes
right.
from?
I don't know. I get it from a perspective of like what you said. It encapsulates everything that they don't like about it, and due to the not extreme nature of it, but the very off-putting nature of it, it just heightens the perception of that scene and everything wrong with it. I would guess that's probably where it's going, or where people have a problem with it. I just think it's such a non-issue.
But it isn't a non-issue.
I get it. For most people, sure. Obviously, it's a complaint. We've got it as number 5 in the top 5 things that people don't like about Luke in this movie. It's just it's hard for me to like find a way to be upset about it, and that's, I mean, of course, I'm gonna have a biased opinion towards the movie. It's going to be hard for me to rationalize it regardless. But it just, like, of all the things you could have and complain about, him milking a cow for some milk in the morning, just, I don't know. Like I said, I think if you take a step back and you realize he was a farm boy on Tatooine, he probably did stuff like this. There's nothing new to him. Granted, we weren't shown it, so I'll give you that. But if you think about it from an in-lore perspective, it doesn't feel that weird for Luke to be someone who would do something like this.
It doesn't.
Maybe the way he's doing it, sure.
Let me try to frame it differently for you. As we record this, it's July 5th. It's the day after the 250th birthday.
The semi-quincentennial.
You really like using that.
It's a big word.
It's a very fun word.
Semi-quincentennial of the United States. Mm-hmm. The signing of the Declaration of Independence. All of that. What if somebody decided to make... There was a movie that came out this weekend called Young Washington.
And what if they used AI to make it milk?
No. What if they had like George Washington... after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, just like walking around, squirting milk out of a teat. I'm serious. I mean, this is do you understand? I mean, I'm
laughing at the absurdity of the conversation we're having recorded
like
forever
like
in a podcast.
Town and just has
he's just like, but do you understand? I mean, this is the way it feels for some people.
Well, no, because
I'm trying to help you see
I get
what
that,
I experienced when I'm trying to have these
I
conversations.
wouldn't have an issue with it.
Well, I think you said, was he just going around town milking cows in this case? No, I think it's got to be under context. Say he moved to a farm and we saw him going about his daily farm chores, and one of those daily farm chores was to milk a cow.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone would be like, I can't believe George Washington, if he lived on a farm, would milk a cow after winning the Revolutionary War. No, that seems to fit just fine if he lived on a farm and was doing the chores for himself. Like, I don't know. I think if it were in a different context, sure, if he was just walking down random planet's market and there was an animal that you could milk and you just walked up to it and started milking it, that would be weird.
Yeah.
But he lived on this island. He's going about his daily chores. We see him catch fish. Is that weird? No.
Yes.
We haven't seen fishing before in Star Wars, to my recollection. Why do you have a problem with this? I mean, I know it's a teat and milking or whatever, but if you think about it from farm chores perspective, this doesn't seem weird to me. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm in a hostile mood or something today, but I can't make it make sense.
Well, here's what I'd say. I'd say when you make it literally just about something as simple as milking for part of his daily chores, it doesn't create a problem. But when you pull it back, and what I'm trying to do with the George Washington thing is help you see this perspective. People have spent, before this moment, right? They had spent, 30 years?
Yeah.
34 years, whatever, waiting to see the hero Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. And and they didn't get it in The Force Awakens. We talked about that, right? Mm-hmm. JJ opened up that mystery box and just left it there, right? So they didn't, I think he wimped out, honestly. I think he wimped out. I think he was scared to do it. And that's my personal opinion. I think that he's like, I'm going to let Ryan deal with the Luke Skywalker stuff because, anyway. And they get this moment, and their first real exposure to Luke Skywalker in their mind has a visual of him milking the teat of a sea cow and drinking the milk and spitting it out on the side of his beard and all of this.
When you
that's the context that so many people see that moment.
Okay. Well, when I can sort of understand that in that context. I can see how you would have a problem with that. Like I said earlier, I think it's the context of the whole scene, right?
I completely understand that. But again, you put Luke into that context. Take Superman, for example.
Okay.
Take Clark Kent on his farm, milking a cow. Do we have an issue with that?
It's not the same, Nate. It's not somebody waiting 34 years to see their hero, and they're waiting, and they get him milking a sea cow and drinking the milk straight out of the bottle.
So
that's the way they view it. And so I'm trying to help you guys understand the way that people that don't like The Last Jedi see this moment.
But wait another 2 hours, and suddenly you have Luke doing all the cool Luke stuff.
But then that also goes back to presentation matters, context matters, right?
Yeah.
And that's not, those people that had a problem with that moment that we're talking about, they never got to the end mentally. They're stuck in that moment. This is their
They're in
hero.
that jar.
They're in that jar. I want us. I'm really. I mean.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me say this. I'm going to be a dad for a second.
Uh-oh.
I think that it's important for us to understand and to be willing to put ourselves in the shoes of the people that struggle with this movie. And in this moment, I'm trying to help you see why they're struggling in that moment. And you're talking about, you get 2 hours in and he becomes this super Jedi that stops all this. But they never get to that moment because they're still just so taken aback by what they saw.
But why are they
what they
taken
feel
aback?
like is because that's not what they expected from Luke Skywalker.
Counter argument.
Okay.
Book of Boba Fett. You get him doing the like a bantha thing.
Yeah.
In like the early episodes. This is not the Boba Fett that we had gotten in Empire Strikes Back.
We expected.
Right? And guess what? I by the end of that show, when he's cool again, I'm okay with it. Because I was able to wait a little bit. Now, granted, I wasn't waiting 30 years. I wasn't around when the original trilogy came out. I get it. But I had been a Boba Fett fan since the first second I saw him in the original trilogy. I loved the dude. So you can imagine I was a little bit, like, on those early episodes, a little hesitant. Because we weren't getting Boba Fett stuff. And then by the end, he's riding a Rancor and doing cool Boba Fett stuff. And I'm like, all right, we're good. It's a very similar situation, I think. Not the same, I get that, but I think that the large broad strokes are the same there. And the way you got to come at it is just you got to trust the process.
Because you've already gotten Boba Fett. By the time we get to the Book of Boba Fett season, you've already seen him as the nomad version in season 2 of The Mandalorian. You'd seen him wearing the distressed armor that he got back on Tython and kicking butt and doing all this amazing stuff.
No, that's a good point.
Then they remake the armor and he goes and he's helping kick butt on on Gideon's ship. And so you had already gotten some Boba Fett moments.
That's a fair point.
And so they don't get that Luke Skywalker moment at all. They're sitting there, they're anticipating it. They're sitting on pins and needles for 34 years. And you've got all the headcanon around Luke and all this other stuff. And their first, I do think it matters. And I think that's, I don't think anybody could have expected the reaction to the Last Jedi that anybody got. I think it's fair to say that. And I think that this might be one of those things where, looking at it from our side, where we love this movie, we can say to somebody, that doesn't feel like Luke Skywalker. And that's not what, I mean, it's hard for them to handle.
I understand how you can be frustrated with it. It's just, I think if you just take a step back for a minute and recontextualize stuff, or think about the rest of the movie, it becomes a non-issue in my head. And maybe that's where Nathan and I are having this disconnect. It's just because it's like, sure, if you micro focus on this thing and say it's been 30 years and all I can see is this scene, yeah, that would be very disappointing if that's all you got from Luke. But that's not all you got from Luke. So you have to contextualize it. If you're going to contextualize it in they've been waiting 30 years and now this is all they get, you have to add the rest of the context too of the rest of the movie. Yes, he's grumpy for like 90% of the movie. I get it. He goes and tries to burn down some books, and then Yoda does it anyway because it doesn't really matter, and that's the lesson. But you get the Luke that you want. Some of the greatest action we've ever seen a Jedi take up until this point. So if you're going to contextualize it in one way, contextualize it for all of it. And so if you just take your head out of that scene for a minute and get out of the jar, as Nathan would say, and watch the rest of the movie, it's not that big of a deal. And if you headcanon it in like the way I just did, where he was a farm boy on a Tatooine, he probably milked stuff then too, it becomes a little less weird. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm making too light of it because it's hard for us to feel that way.
What I do know is we spent 21 minutes
talking about Luke milking stuff.
But I think that it's an important, and it's not about the milk.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that most of the frustration that people have with this version of Luke Skywalker is based on
they went in with expectations.
No,
and it
not
wasn't
even.
met.
No, it's not. Yes, but no. And I think that you diminish it by just saying they went in with expectations, and they can't do that. I think that they went in with 34 years of anticipation, and that felt disappointing. And so I'm not trying, we love this. I love The Last Jedi. I love Luke Skywalker.
Absolutely.
I also remember sitting there and going, whoa, what is that in that moment? I'm just saying I understand how that could cause some people to go so out, to be taken out of the movie so much that they never were able to get back into it and see what you guys saw at the end. And what we love about that movie so much. I think that, and I think it's fair to say I could understand how somebody could get frustrated.
And all I'm saying, I understand that. And all I'm saying is I just want, as a word of advice for people, is to try to recontextualize the scene is all I'm offering as a way forward, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like we're going to solve the Last Jedi problems on this series. And
absolutely
we never expected to. No. But I do want people, I'm hoping that if somebody watched this, that they would, I don't want them feeling like we're just dismissing them as being stupid because they got frustrated.
No, I can understand being frustrated. Absolutely. Like I just said, I was with Boba Fett and stuff. So I get it to a degree. I'm just trying to offer a way to maybe help that frustration.
Okay. The next one that is a real frustration is Luke's death, the way that he died. It feels, I know that we think it's peace and purpose. It's what Leia says to Rey at the end. It's like this massive moment, but they're like, the argument is built around the idea that Luke is this grumpy guy 90% of the movie, using your own language with it. And then, so he does this really cool thing with the Force, I guess you can say that. I'm using their argument, right? At the end, but then he just dies. And you don't get any more. You don't get any Luke. Why could? And they frustrated. Like, why couldn't he have survived, been a part of the next movie? And so the frustration is around the death of Luke in that moment. Can you understand why that goes? And it kind of maybe goes back to the same thing we just talked about, where you've been waiting 34 years for Luke Skywalker. He's been grumpy for 90% of this movie, and now he's dead.
Yeah.
With that, talk about kind of the way that you view the death of Luke Skywalker in this and why it works for you.
Well, I think a lot of it, the reason why I'm able to look past some of that stuff is Luke wasn't like a huge deal character to me at the time, right? I liked Luke. I liked the movies and stuff, but he wasn't cooler. He just didn't. There wasn't a whole lot of personal connection with me, like that a lot of people would have going into this, especially if they grew up with the original trilogy and stuff or around that time. So, if you spend 90% of the movie waiting for something to happen and then it happens and then he dies and so you won't get any more of that, totally can understand some frustration there. And I think that is valid.
What do you think about that,
I
Nick?
totally get that.
I understand the frustration about it. It's at any time it's hard to cope with if it's your favorite character, always hard to cope with the death of that. It's not an easy thing to do. It's hard to understand why that would happen. It's a fictional story. Why couldn't you just keep him alive? We don't need to be bringing death into all of this and all that kind of stuff. Understandable. The frustration is fair, and I can completely understand it.
If Endgame spent 90% of the movie with Tony just being grumpy and not doing anything,
The
the
Tony
whole time.
that's refusing to help.
Right. Was there the entire movie, and then at the end he grabs the gauntlet, snaps, and dies? I would have probably been a little bit more angry.
Well, let's just be honest. For more than about half of the movie, he's refusing.
No.
It's really,
He comes
it's not
up.
a very long part.
He comes up with the time heist. He goes on the time heist with them. He's getting the stones. He's fighting in the end. It is really
That
a
segment where
small-
he's like I'm not going to have anything to do with this anymore is a pretty short.
It's pretty small, a lot smaller than the
without a
portion
doubt.
of
Of
Last
course.
Jedi that Luke
Yeah,
is
no doubt.
refusing to help. So I feel like if there was less of Tony
It
being
would
willing to help,
almost, it's kind of use your context.
Yeah.
It would almost be like they did the time heist. They got all that stuff. You're getting all this battle with Thanos. Thanos shows up again at the end, and Tony hasn't been around for any of that. And then suddenly he shows up to come and help save the day. And you're like, finally, he's here. Tony's back. And then he snaps and dies.
yeah, that would have pissed. I mean, yeah, it would have pissed me off if that had been the case. So contextualizing it that way, yeah, I get it. If Luke is your guy, like Iron Man was to me, that would put me off pretty hard. So I can appreciate the frustration there for sure.
I think that for me, looking at this, it comes down to something that J.J. Abrams said to Mark Hamill while they were making The Force Awakens, right? Because Mark Hamill pulled him aside and was like, can't we get a scene? Everybody throws this at Ryan. I remember when Last Jedi came out and the whole hashtag missed opportunities thing came out, where literally Mark Hamill reshared a picture somebody made, a Photoshop picture of old Luke, old Han, old Leia, old Chewie in the Millennium Falcon with the hashtag, or they shared it and tagged him on it, and he retweeted it with the hashtag missed opportunities. Right? And it became something that was against Luke on it. Well, Han was already dead at this point. And Mark pulled JJ aside and said, can't we get a scene with all of them, with all three of them? Why can't we have a scene? And JJ pulled him aside and said flat out, Mark, this trilogy isn't about you. That's the difference
Between
this and Endgame.
right. Because Endgame, I mean,
What
that
is
whole Infinity Saga was started with
It's about Cap and it's about Tony for the most part,
Right.
And Thor and
Right.
them.
and then they're bringing, I guess, him back for Doomsday, which feels weird because I thought we moved
We're
past
not
that. But
sure. We're not sure.
We're not
yet
sure, but
how
it's
gonna
anyway.
work.
But
Find out in a couple weeks. With
yes,
the trailer.
I would echo that. This, as hard as that would be, as hard of a pill as that is to swallow, you do have to remember that the sequel trilogy is not about the original three anymore. And with Luke, Leia, and Han, and as beloved as those characters are, and as much as you might like them, I love them too. That's not their story. Like, you can't just try to shoehorn in characters and make them the spotlight in a story that's not theirs. It's gonna feel disingenuous to both the original characters and the new characters whose story you're trying to tell. And I can understand that disappointment. If you love the originals and you go into this hoping to get way more of that than you got,
Well, there was not everybody. There was a large segment of fandom that wanted Heir to the Empire.
and as much as I can appreciate you enjoying that story and wanting an adaptation of that or a version of that, it's not what that was. So you
cannot
I don't know.
go
It's
into
hard.
every movie expecting to see exactly what you want. And if it doesn't go that way, dismissing it entirely. That feels like disrespectful to Star Wars almost.
What do you
Like
mean?
you can't appreciate what stories they are going to tell. Like if it's not your story, the one that you want, well then it doesn't really matter. If it's not heir to the Empire, well why would I care? That seems like that's kind of that ideology with that kind of stuff.
I mean,
for those people,
I get it, but you can be disappointed with stories that are told. I mean, an example of recent time. I don't think any of us were a fan of Stranger Things season 5, like the story
Not at all.
it told and the way it ended. It felt like,
But nobody was a fan of that.
right. But nobody was a fan of The Last Jedi either.
Yeah, I get it.
So
But I don't think it was anywhere nearly as. There was no critical reception. There's no this fan. There was a whole the movement suggesting that there was a secret episode coming was the most popular thing about that season.
And the fact that it was so like well thought out.
That,
too.
yeah,
There was
all the Easter eggs and stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm just using that as an example of something we were not a fan of, right? It was the story they wanted to tell.
yeah.
Was it a bad story?
Yes.
Yes. But
I'm not
as
gonna
much as it disappoints me that that's how such a great series ended, that's how the series ended. Yeah. And as much as I would love a retcon, as a lot of people want for like the sequel trilogy, that's just not going to happen.
No, but the thing is I'm going to move on with my life.
Right.
I have better shows to watch.
Right. You know, and I can, do what you want in your headcanon, but just at least accept the fact that, well, that's what we got. Move on with your life, like you said. It's disappointing, but sometimes stories aren't going to be what you want. Now, granted, like we just said, Stranger Things Season 5 was so bad that people were gaslighting themselves into thinking that it was actually a fake, everything was fake, and then there was more. Last Jedi just wasn't liked, and people wanted a remake, but nobody was gaslighting themselves into thinking, oh,
this was a joke.
The next movie in the trilogy is actually going to be like, no, that was all not even
all
real.
dream.
Which
It was
kind of happened anyway because it went back on a lot of the stuff. But no, the psychosis around it was not there, at least. So you gotta give.
I missed that week. That was a fun week.
You gotta give The Last Jedi that. At least there wasn't a psychosis around it. But it's frustrating.
Would it have been better for Ryan to have had Luke survive all the way through the end and let him continue to train Rey?
I think it could have been. I think it would have been a way to wimp out.
Okay.
Honestly, the story that he told capped off better with Luke dying. If he kept him alive, it would have been just because he wanted to satisfy people, but not satisfy his story. And it's a way to wimp out of the story. It's just if I saw that and if I knew that originally he was thinking of killing Luke, I would have been like, man, I hate studio influence, because I would have thought Disney told him you can't kill off Luke Skywalker, which I'm kind of surprised Disney was okay with that, honestly, at this point. But I would have thought that. And I would have been like, man, thinking through it, man, it would have been a lot better if Luke died. And I wonder if it did go that way, and we did hear a year or two later that in the original script Luke was going to die, how that would have been received by fans. Would people have been like, I would have preferred that, or I'm so glad they went the way they did? How would that? It's of course, you can't ever figure that out. But
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason you would keep Luke alive is closure for the character, and because he wasn't really training Rey to begin with, so why would he suddenly why would it matter if he stuck around to keep training her? It's not like there's a lot of
he
sunk
could
cost.
Truly train her was the idea.
Okay.
The idea.
Yeah, that's true. But we already got some closure for the character when he spoke to Leia before going out in front of the First Order and stuff, right? So there's some closure there. And so him dying doesn't need to you don't need to keep him alive to satisfy that. Additionally, as we talked about last week, we found out, we kind of realized that what he does is supposed to mirror what Ben does on the Death Star in Episode 4. What does Ben do at the end there? He dies. What did he do up until that point? He trained Luke a little bit.
Sure.
About as much as Luke trained Rey in The Last Jedi. So why didn't he keep Ben around to keep training Luke? Well, he kind of did.
Well, the difference is we didn't have the prequels first.
You're right.
If we would have had the prequels and we were waiting 20 plus years, 30 years to see Obi-Wan Kenobi continue and he died and the way he died in A New Hope, people would have been like, what the heck?
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. So, but when you realize what that's supposed to mirror, I think it adds to the impact of him dying when he's doing the ultimate sacrifice that he's experienced up to this point with Ben. It's just a mirror of that. And it's not Luke's story, just like the original trilogy wasn't Ben's story. That was the prequels. What was Luke's story? The original trilogy. It's like, you know, as much as I can appreciate you wanting to see more of your favorite character, I get it. Totally understand, and that's a valid thing. But you got to sometimes remember that not everything can be about your favorite character all the time. That's just not how it works. Unless it's a series built around the character like Sherlock or something. You're gonna have to share the screen time with other people.
Yeah, very true.
And it's tough. I get it.
Luke being on Crate is the next one. Just being in exile. The
being
leaving,
on Crate or
being
on
Ahch-To. Yeah, being on Ahch-To.
Okay.
Being there, having separated himself, having, you know, the argument is Luke abandoned Leia, abandoned Han, abandoned the Republic, abandoned everything, because, you know, and we'll talk about this one in a minute, but because of what happened with Ben and the Jedi Academy, he basically failed, and then he disappeared and abandoned everything he stood for. That is the argument that people have for him being on Ahch-To. Now, we've talked about this, and I'm going to go ahead and set the table. I understand this, so this isn't part of your argument. Rian Johnson didn't put him on Ahch-To. Rian Johnson didn't have him, the entire first movie, be about him not being around and them having to find him.
Yeah.
That was not the choice that Rian made. That was the choice. That was the scenario Rian was faced with explaining in this movie. And we'll talk about the explanation that he gave, which was built off of The Force Awakens as well. But the argument is that's out of character for Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker in Empire is abandoning, you know, turning his back on what Yoda and Ben, the Force Ghost and Ben are telling him to do. He turns his back on his training because his friends are in need, and he leaves to go do them, to help save them. You know, the whole thing with Tatooine at the beginning of Return of the Jedi is him going to save his friends, specifically Han. The end of Return of the Jedi is him, you know, being willing to sacrifice himself because to turn himself into the Empire, because it's risking his friends on the moon of Endor because Vader senses his presence there. So he turns himself into Vader, and because he believes Vader can be redeemed. So that's who Luke is in canon.
Right. Up until
That's who we know Luke to be.
Yeah.
And the argument is the Luke we get in The Last Jedi is a Luke that's turned his back on everything that he was in the original trilogy. Thoughts on why people could see it that way? Maybe you can try to understand that.
Isn't that kind of what he's doing?
Okay,
I think he's doing it out of a sense of trying to do the right thing. I don't think he's just trying to be a grumpy old man. Look at all the death that was caused by him thinking he can train the next generation of Jedi, right? And then that failure that came out of that. A lot of death and destruction happened from that. Then look how much death and destruction happened by people just trying to find him again. That was the entirety of The Force Awakens, roughly speaking, right? That was a large thing. So do you entirely blame him for being like, I'm just going to remove myself from the equation entirely?
But that's not the perspective that these people have with that. They're not seeing him saying, there's a problem I'm solving by removing myself from the equation. That's the perspective that we have as fans
Other
of The
people are
Last
like,
Jedi.
he's running away.
They're like, he just gave up on everything. He failed. He said, screw it. I'm out of here. I'm just going to be some grumpy old guy to live on a planet the rest of my days. I don't want to have anything to do with this anymore.
Okay.
That's the perspective that they have.
I don't know how we can speak on other people's perspectives. Like,
Well, I'm just telling you what it is.
I understand that that's the perspective they have. That's not the perspective they were going for. You're looking for something. You are actively looking for something wrong there, which is guaranteed not the perspective or the reasoning that they were going for in The Last Jedi for why he was on Ahch-To. It's not even close to. The one that we are agreeing upon, the one that they bring to light in The Last Jedi, watch the movie that's right there. It's explicitly said he is trying to remove himself from the equation because he believes that is what the best thing to do is here. Not, oh, I'm going to just give up. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm grumpy. This is, I'm running away kind of thing. That's not it at all. But if you're seeing that, I don't know how anybody can help you see that that's not what they were going for. And you're just looking for an issue there. It feels like more than anything.
You've got to be willing to change or to see a different perspective.
You got to be willing to see the right perspective.
Well, I'd be careful about saying it that way because I understand that we think that this is the objective opinion for the movie, and I do think it is based on what we're shown in the
Ryan
movie.
explicitly say this too when he's discussing the movie as the reason Luke is on Ahch-To? Isn't it said in Director in the Jedi?
I believe you're right. I would need to rewatch.
So
I think it makes the most sense both narratively and in terms of the
character
Luke we know.
Yeah.
So I think what you're trying to say here is that we can only tell you so much. You have to be willing to see a different perspective. But I can understand how, at a first glance, especially if you're coming fresh off the heels of him milking a cow,
Right.
you're going to be immediately like, well, this is just a grumpy guy who just said, "Nuh-uh, I'm done. You guys have fun." And if you're coming at it with that perspective, I can understand how it looks like he just said, "Screw you guys. I'm going to do my own thing." So I get that. I get that. But again, you have to. And I think part of the problem is we're having to do this. We're having to
we're having to try to understand that perspective when we just literally don't have that perspective.
Well, and I mean, we're having to sit here and kind of, I guess some of what the points we're making and some of the information we're going off of is a little bit, I can't think of the word. It's buried a little bit in the narrative or something, or we're having to do more mental gymnastics or be more flexible or something. And we're having to explain it. So I can understand how maybe on a little bit more of a casual watch, or if you're going at it with the wrong kind of perspective, I think it's a knife's edge that you're having to walk almost as you're watching this movie, which is a risky move, obviously. So if one or too many things wrong, you're going to flip on one side and be like, I don't like it at all, right? Him milking a space cow, I'm done, right? And it's almost impossible to climb back up that cliff. Whereas we were watching it and we're like, this is awesome, love it. We're immediately on the other side of that knife's edge, and it's hard for us to jump back to the other side. So I think as difficult as it is, and as much mental gymnastics as we're having to do to go to that side of the argument, people have to be willing to do the same thing, and that's harder. I feel like it's
so hard.
No, it's harder for them to want to do that
because it's so much more emotional.
Yes, you're so frustrated. Why would I actively try to suddenly like something I've spent 8 years hating? I get that. If someone came up to me and was like, "Hey, you got to go. I think you should really give Stranger Things season 5 another watch." Granted, I've had even less time to sit on it.
Or worse, what if you spent people argued about Stranger Things for 5 years or 8 years? and one half of the argument was this is a masterpiece,
Right.
and the other half is this is absolute
I'm on the
garbage,
garbage side.
and you're on the garbage side.
I mean, the mental flexibility I would have to jump to the other
You
side.
feel like you got to dig your heels in,
and
more.
I don't even want to,
Yes,
because I hate
exactly,
it.
exactly.
So I understand their plight here. It's frustrating.
It is.
I get it. I just, as nonsensical as it may be, what the arguments we're making, I implore you to try and see the other side of things, because it is such a good movie.
I get it.
So I have to give credit where credit's due. It's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard. And it's hard for us to figure out where you're coming from too,
Yeah.
because we can't see it.
You've been trying to say something.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so a lot of what we're bringing up is like, you have that 30-year gap between that expecting this hero Luke to show up, this legend, and you're expecting it like he's gotten even greater, I'm sure, over the 30 years we haven't seen him. He's
It's
be
the
so
superhero
powerful.
leveling up
Yeah, he's
thing.
superhero leveling
yeah.
up. We've seen this happen again recently in the pop culture media realm. You bring in the God of War series, one of the most overpowered characters in pop culture history. You spend 5 games with him in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, of him going through and just destroying the entire Greek pantheon, leveling up each time, the most powerful being in existence. You wait 18 years.
Okay.
And you get to the next God of War game expecting, oh my gosh,
He's
been
gotta
18
be,
years.
yeah.
We don't know what happened. And he's moved to a new mythology. He's going to go crazy. And the first 2 hours of the game is you hunting with your son and chopping down trees. Not even kidding. That's it.
It's interesting.
And in the story, he's hiding from the gods and the mythology. He
Interesting.
doesn't want to interact with them. He doesn't want to be found because he has no desire to ever be put in a situation like that again. He's hiding. And then his wife, the only thing that was protecting him from the view of the gods, passes away. And his main goal is to still hide. This immensely powerful being. It won Game of Year that same year and is considered one of the greatest games of all time.
Do some people really hate it?
I don't know of a single person that does.
Really?
But if you spent the first 3 hours, I don't know how long the campaign on that
About
is.
18, 20
okay,
hours.
if you spent the first 15 hours playing as Atreus, and then for the last 3 hours you got to play as Kratos, do some cool stuff, and then he died at the end, would fans be more disappointed? I
guess,
think so.
Yeah, it's
But-
not a direct correlation,
Obviously
but
no. But the point you're trying to
scenario
make-
is-
But the thing is I'm saying, if we're saying like, you see Luke doing the milking the cow and doing all of this stuff at the beginning, and you're immediately thrown off and you can't lock in for the rest of the thing because you're just torn up about what happened at the beginning. Why isn't it the same for that?
Yeah.
He's chopping down trees. He's hunting deer. He's doing these normal things that are just like, this is the guy that killed Zeus about 18 years before. How does this correlate?
Okay, I see your point there.
So I'm saying I don't understand fully, and I think my mic's doing its thing again. I don't understand fully of the. I think it takes a lot of mental gymnastics, like you're saying, to really understand that side, and I get that, and I'm trying my hardest, but I'm also trying not to. I don't want this to sound harsh, and it might come across harsh. I don't want to give credit where it's not deserved, really.
okay.
Because I don't know if these people are even trying to like this movie.
No, they're not.
Ever try.
No, I would agree with you. I think that I would say that 90% of the people that make these arguments don't have any interest in liking the movie. They're just making arguments.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about this from that perspective. I think that there are people.
I completely
If
understand
somebody's
the mental
watching our
gymnastics.
podcast, there's one of two. This episode, there's one of two reasons. They're either getting ready to flare all over
Sure.
the comments,
Yeah.
and we ignore it and don't even read them, or they're legitimately curious.
Or they like the movie.
If they're legitimately I'm
Yeah.
saying like if they did,
yeah, I understand.
if they're legitimately curious, I don't want them hearing from us a perspective that says we think you're stupid because
Not even close.
You
Oh,
no.
absolutely.
I want them
But
to
I'm
understand.
speaking for all of the criticisms that I've heard. which are the horribly antagonistic,
I get
intense ones, I don't think you try to like the movie, or maybe even ever did try to like the movie. Because if these are your criticisms and we're coming up with these things outside of that, like why is this a problem for you if so and so happened? Then, and you're not able to fully be like, well, blank blank blank. If that's the issue, then I don't know if I trust that criticism as a genuine one. There's a lot of things that happen. Like a film critic for Supergirl complained about Millie Alcock and Supergirl being a lead of a movie. I'm not gonna take your criticism. I'm sorry. I don't. He was complaining about a female lead in a superhero.
Are you serious?
Yes, it is on Rotten Tomatoes.
Did he have a problem with Wonder Woman?
I don't know. I didn't care because that criticism is one I'm not going to take.
That does seem silly. Anyway.
So I'm saying
your
that
point.
there are these criticisms that when I see them from people like that, and then I hear other criticisms, maybe from people that are curious and are open to liking it, it's hard for me to really be like, well, I don't know if I believe you. It's hard to see that.
You're saying you feel like a lot of it's just the echo chamber.
Yeah, I wonder.
thing.
I think there's a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Another one that's really significant is just the Jedi have to end argument that Luke brings up.
See, this one's going to be real hard for me.
This
to
one's
see
really hard for. I was just thinking that
because
too.
like that, I still remember watching the trailer
At Celebration,
in
which we talked about
Celebration,
on the previous episode.
and
yeah.
he says that on the trailer. Oh my gosh, the energy was electric, right?
Yeah, but but as an original trilogy guy, growing up with the original trilogy, I still remember thinking, what did he just say? What does that mean? Who is this guy? What is going on? You know, even in that moment at the trailer, it's still, I still remember it being like really like disorienting for me.
For
and
the
my Star
whole
Wars perspective.
original trilogy thing, I don't remember if we ever figure this out. How many times are the Jedi mentioned
all the time,
in the original trilogy?
all the
I
time.
think it's the Sith that we couldn't remember if they were mentioned. But I
The
don't
Sith
think
aren't
remember.
mentioned hardly at all. I
Yeah.
don't think that they are.
Okay,
I
trying
think
to
they
remember
were in
what it
scripts,
was.
but I don't know if they were actually brought out in dialogue.
Okay,
And things
I was
like
trying
that.
to remember that because I'm like I couldn't remember who mentions the Jedi all that often.
no, the Jedi are talked about pretty often.
Yeah.
But anyway,
if you're a fan of Luke Skywalker and the mythology of the mythos of this idea of the Jedi, and Luke is going to restore the Jedi and all of those things. And then Luke is actively telling you throughout this movie that the Jedi need to go away. Can you see where someone that grew up with the original trilogy would really struggle with Luke Skywalker suddenly, I am a Jedi like my father before me, turning into it's time for the Jedi to end?
well, I can understand how if you've grown up on the original trilogy, you're gonna think, well, that's a shift. But I don't think it's impossible for people. I think he saw what the Jedi could be, or the version
What
of the
they
Jedi
have been.
right,
The
and how
failures, yeah.
what it can lead to. It's gonna cause more problems. The version of the Jedi that he was aware of is not sustainable, as obviously it wasn't. That's why the Republic fell. So I think that's the mindset he's having to have, and I don't think it's impossible for people to change their opinion given new information. So, I mean, it's kind of a weak example, but this is just all I could think of. Like personally, when like AI was like a newer thing, I was using it all the time. I was pretty adamant. Like I thought it was a great thing. I liked it. And then over the past few years, I've just seen more of the damage that it's doing, and so now I'm vehemently
You
against
are very
it.
much against
Right,
anything.
but
AI.
I'm
It
just
ruins your day if you hear about it.
it does. But I'm just using that as an example of I was very for it. I saw what it can do, the problems that it can cause, and I think that you should. I don't think it should be around anymore. At least the version that we
Time
have
for the AI to
now.
end.
Sure, I'm just saying, like, Given new information, I don't think it's impossible for you to change your opinion.
100%. I agree with that.
And I think that's just what Luke does here. Yeah. Now, does he talk about it pretty extremely? Yeah.
Which can go to another thing of like bringing in the AI example. There are the trend that the AI stuff is going is undeniably poor. We are not going in the direction of the AI, but there are aspects of AI that can be used very well. Just the same as there are aspects of the Jedi and things that we can learn from them that can be still applied in a correct way. But
Right.
the idea and where the Jedi were at in the prequels, original, and then what Luke knew them as, that ideology and that methodology of the Jedi needed to end and needed to die.
Yeah.
But it's not saying that all Jedi of all time, from now to the future, need to end.
Or every aspect of being a Jedi is wrong. Yeah.
Not every aspect of AI is
right. Like there's AI that's being used to detect trends in medical data and stuff faster than a human could go for it. That's great.
And I had somebody at church
love
ask me, they're like, "Do you think AI will take your job?" I'm a sound technician. And I was like, "No, it could never take my job. Doesn't have the human ear." But I said I'm not against or opposed to AI in sound consoles
having
as a tool
to
like
use.
Hey, I'm hearing this in the house. Can you help me clean it up? And then it'll put in the EQ and put in the compressor where I need it to be. It's the difference between as just to help with speed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I heard Jon Favreau during the build up to The Mandalorian and Grogu gave some interviews. I think at CinemaCon.
Yeah.
Where Jon Favreau has always kind of been on the front edge of technology when it comes to.
He did the volume and all of that.
Well, the volume and a lot of CG stuff with Iron Man, but also like the Jungle Book and the Lion King and all of those things, which is really interesting because he did Elf completely practical. Like old school, like 1940s camera effects and stuff like that with it. And he's like, they asked him about AI and filmmaking and what's his position. He says, well, I think that the first thing is we've got to be mature enough to have the conversation with knowing what we're talking about. And he's like, there's a difference between process AI and generative AI, 100%. Right? And so there's good things with process AI and generative AI you got to be careful with. Yeah. What he's saying.
We've been using the term AI for years to describe like NPCs in video games and stuff, right?
And that's not what this is about, but the point the point I'm making with both is when you say it's time for the Jedi to end, if you make that everything that was good about the Jedi and everything that was bad about the Jedi, it's all bad now, throw it out. That's the problem.
Right. Yes, that's the point I was trying to make.
And at the end of the movie, Luke is like, I'm not the last Jedi. Right. And so he's changed. And that goes also back to people change. Their perspectives change. Those types of things.
So now he's pro AI.
Whoa. Hey, slow down here.
The biggest thing is the
number one criticism.
Number one criticism is Ben, and he tried to kill. The argument is Luke Skywalker would never try to kill his nephew.
He tried to kill his dad.
Luke Skywalker didn't try to kill his nephew. He never tried to kill his nephew.
He was gonna. What do you mean?
It's a Rashomon sequence. You've got three different.
You are not wrong.
What?
You've got. This is a Kurosawa. Rashomon is a movie.
Yeah.
That Kurosawa made, where you see three different perspectives in the movie.
The same
sequence. It's hoodwinked.
Thank you.
Freaking movie.
Gotta go to Sam.
Gosh darn.
Gotta go to Sam. And
I found that DVD.
We have it.
We still have it.
Good. Save that. That's,
right,
that's
anyway.
going to be a relic.
So the idea is
movie.
a Rashomon sequence. It's this movie where you see this event happening from three different perspectives, which
and the telling's a little bit different.
It's different in each one. In this movie, that moment is you have Luke's sanitized, I'm the good guy version that he tells. You have Ben's, I'm a bad guy. He's still not neither one of them are credible
in the
narrators.
neutral objective side.
Neither one of them are being credible narrators.
No.
Yeah, but even in Luke's perspective, don't we see him still ignite the saber?
Yeah, he ignites it.
And then the third one, when Rey says, makes him tell the truth, is when he talks about he saw everything in him. See, the first time Luke kind of implies he was attacked.
Yes.
By Ben. In Kylo's version, Luke was trying to kill him.
Was
like
about to
swinging.
swing.
Right.
Yeah.
In the true version, Luke looks into into Ben and sees the darkness, and he has a reaction where the saber gets ignited. Then he pulls back, and he never tried to kill.
Yeah.
He never took a swing. The argument is, in reality, this argument is really Kylo Ren's version of the story is the truth.
Yeah.
Is
If
the way
if
the
take
way
it at
it's
face value
portrayed.
here.
Is Kylo Ren's version is the true
Which
story.
you can go back to the whole milk thing. People saw that and they tuned out for the rest of the movie. They saw that and they're like, well, Luke would never kill Ben. And they didn't even realize that that's not what happened later on in the movie.
But
I don't know. It still feels weird to me, and maybe I need to rewatch the scene. But the fact that Luke was standing there with the lightsaber out at all just already kind of feels weird.
it is. I mean, he went to a place. No doubt, Luke went to a very dark place in that moment.
Yeah.
But he never...
Never actively tried to kill his nephew.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he for lack of a better expression, he had the gun in his hand, but he wasn't pointing it at him yet.
It was it was a reaction, right? And I think do you get this? Do you get this though? I mean, it's wild here having this conversation with you guys this episode, because I'm sitting here truly trying to take 8.5 years of being in the fray, hearing it on social media, primarily Twitter X, all the time. And I'm trying to help you see their perspective, not just that conversation on campus or that conversation with somebody, that's
I get it.
on and on. I mean, it's like here's the way I would say it. All right. If you take all 5 of these together, this is the perspective of people that just will never come around
Yeah.
on The Last Jedi to what we think it is. It starts with Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder. They struggle with that idea. That's like, what the heck was this? That throws them off. It goes to the
milk.
milking the cow with it. It's finding out that, that he's just like completely turned his back on
The Jedi.
on the Jedi, on Leia, on Han. I mean, he's not there training. He's not there trying to find some solution. He's there waiting to die with this. He tries to kill Ben with it. And then even if he does come around at the end, Ryan kills him off at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's why they hate this movie. So if that was the way you viewed The Last Jedi when you watched it the first time, if that's the perspective that you walked out of that theater with, could you understand the people that are just like, man, this movie's just trash?
Yeah, of course. But it's like, well, what if you didn't like, I don't know, what if you didn't like marinara sauce and then you were forced to eat spaghetti? It's like, well, sure, I'm not going to like it because I didn't like it to begin with. It's hard to contextualize it. If you don't like something, you don't like it. It is kind of, it feels like the point you're trying to make. So yes, of course, if I saw all those things the way that you described them, sure, I wouldn't like the movie, but that's not the movie. So it's hard because you've got to, like we've said, you've got to look at it through a different lens.
Yeah.
And that's almost going to be near impossible to do now. You've spent 8 years looking at it through one kind of lens, and to completely reshape everything all of a sudden on a whim like that, that's not easy to do. Just like it's not easy for us to do it the other way.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to sit here and it would take a lot for me to sit here and actively make myself hate The Last Jedi. Just like it's going to take a lot for someone to sit there and actively suddenly start liking and loving The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But I think what it comes down to is as we've tried to do here, we've tried to see where the frustrations can come from. And in looking at it through that lens, I do understand those criticisms. And I think we got lucky by not looking at this, not coming into that movie with that lens. I think we had a lot of things that lined up to where we didn't have that problem. And I'm grateful. I usually try to like most things. So I don't like it when I don't like something, if that makes any sense. So we got lucky there. But I can understand how for someone else they weren't as lucky, and that's tough. I think all we're hoping for out of this is that you can go back if for some reason you're feeling really adventurous one night. If you go back and watch The Last Jedi, all we really are asking is that you just go at it with a fresh set of eyes or something.
Yeah.
Or just try to see things for a different perspective, because it's worth enjoying. But I don't think anyone's expecting anyone to just suddenly change their tune in one night and suddenly be an advocate for The Last Jedi. That's just not reasonable.
The Luke that I just described, which is the perspective of people that don't like this movie, I honestly think that that's kind of coming almost full circle on the series. I almost think that that's the perspective that Mark Hamill walked away when he read the script the first time.
Yeah.
The grumpy Luke? Yeah.
The idea of
100%.
all those negative things.
100%.
When he read that script, and I think it's because Mark Hamill was waiting 34 years to be the superhero again. Yeah. And has every right to want to be that character.
I don't blame him at all.
With it.
Just like I don't blame people for wanting to see like the crazy hero Luke. I get it.
But when he read that script, he was like, I fundamentally disagree with this Luke.
He sat in the jar.
He sat in the jar. But the beautiful thing is when you do watch the Director and the Jedi,
you can see,
and when you watch the interviews that Mark and Ryan gave together, both during the press tour for The Last Jedi and during the tour they did a little mini tour for the Director and the Jedi when the Blu-ray came out, and you hear Mark talk about this. Mark's perspective was different on this. And so I would close out the whole series with kind of saying, you know, what you're saying is absolutely right. It's almost impossible for somebody that's spent 8.5 years in with one perspective and in a social media environment that feeds the perspective that you have. Right? You watch a video that reinforces that perspective and you like it and you comment on it, and then it sends 16 more your way that say the same thing,
and you like those,
and you like and you comment on that, and you get another 50 of those that are like that and posts about it. So now you think everybody on the planet has the same perspective, and you multiply that times 8.5 years, it's even harder.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%.
But if you can accept the possibility that there are people that did view this movie very differently from the very beginning and have viewed it that way, like we've talked about for 6 weeks now, and that there is ample evidence out there to suggest that Mark's perspective softened dramatically. I won't say it swung to where our perspective is, but it softened dramatically on this presentation of Luke. Then maybe that's a starting point for finding middle ground.
Yeah, I can agree
on this kind of conversation. Okay. I knew that was going to be the hardest episode we did.